Hi again, my dearest viewers. As you see, I decided to continue recording the other 5 episodes. So this is episode 6. I just want to give my warmest thank you for all the beautiful, heartwarming comments that you made. That was really overwhelming to see that the work I make are actually being appreciated and makes a difference and fills a gap in the podcast world of knitting. So from the deep of my heart, thank you to all of you that has encouraged me to continue watching and letting me know how I have inspired you to be creative. So thank you. Some small comments on your comments. I haven't commented everyone, just a few of them. But some of you has experienced difficulties in understanding English, and many of you are still really trying to watch because you want to watch me. And I understand that. And I understand that for the viewers I have, when I made the podcast in Swedish, I probably lost or people stopped watching because of difficulties in understanding English. And I will try to talk a little bit slower. I know that when I get excited, I start talking faster, and then it is probably more difficult to understand what I'm actually saying. And since I'm not a native English speaker, I'm probably pronouncing words a little bit strange. And it could be difficult to understand. I will also try to remember to take some of the more difficult words or expressions in Swedish, just to make the videos more accessible, tillgängliga, also for those of you that are not that comfortable in listening to English. And you should know that commenting, you can comment in, I wouldn't say any language, but you can comment in Swedish, Norwegian, Danish. I understand those languages, of course, in English. I think that I can understand also comments in German if you use simple words or something that is easy to understand. French, Finnish, Spanish. I don't understand that very good. But of course, I can always try with Google Translate. But just so you know that you can comment in different languages. But if you want to comment in order to interact with others, and I encourage you to actually read each other's comments and comment on each other also, then I suggest that you do that in English, because then you will reach everybody. So that's that about the language. And I will continue doing this in English. It would be very strange if I change language suddenly. About the the kura sock. We can take that first. I just want to remind you that the pattern, the recipe, will be available during the whole October. Then I will take it away from YouTube. Probably will put it back again next year for a period. But I am so happy that I have seen many of you that are knitting Kura. I've seen it on Instagram. They are really lovely to see. And I just want to remind you that the pattern, the recipe is still there, and encourage your friends to knit. And even if I have designed in Nutiden yarn, the recipe works for any yarn, any needles, any kind of feet size, small or big. So just so you know, it's a recipe to provide you with a kind of blank canvas so you can paint and create your own socks that fits very well. When it comes to the Huldra slipover, that will be the episode 10. So that will be an episode, and that episode will stay on YouTube for as long as YouTube exists, or they don't change the settings or something. So that one will stay. So there will not be any time limit on that one. And when it comes to this Huldra slipover, I am also designing that in Nutiden, but it will work for any yarn, any kind of needles. The needles should be suitable for the yarn you choose. And also it will work for any size. So that's kind of the key in all my recipes. It is that the recipe is so versatile, so you can use whatever kind of yarn you want, needles that fits the yarn, and make it in any size that you want. So that's like the key takeaway. What a little bit special, or will be special, with this the Huldra recipe, it is that it's kind of the exam, like the final test of your creativity. So it will not be a recipe or a pattern where you follow step by step and I tell you exactly how to do things. There will be there will be problems, or what you call it, that you need to find your own solutions to. So you will need to be creative in like the texture and how you want it, the expression you want of the slipover, but also to make to solve some of the problems that you encounter on the way. You have to solve it yourself, but it's not that difficult. I will try to be as clear as possible and give guidelines on how you can think when you are approaching those problems or challenges. Maybe I should say that instead. So I think that you will appreciate it. And it will be a video recipe. It will never become a written pattern. It will never be provided or sold on Ravelry. It will be as a YouTube video. So that was that for the kind of introduction. So are we ready for today's theme? So today's theme of this episode will be part 1 of my design process. So there will be 2 episodes that covers this, my design process. So this is part 1. And what I want to achieve with this is to explore about the design process and how you can think when approaching the designing of something. That not just, okay, I want to do something pretty, I put it together, but a more structure and what you call it, systematic approach to designing something. So that is what we will be doing today. First, when we talk about design, I want to just define design, because I think that there are many different I'm losing words. Uppfattning in Swedish. There are many different ways how you actually describes or define design, or how you are actually interpreting that word. And I would just read how the source of knowledge, Wikipedia, defines or what a design is. And they say that a design is a plan or specification for the construction of an object or system, or for the implementation of an activity or process, or the result of that plan or specification in the form of a prototype, product, or process. So that means that a lot of this design, it has to do with a plan on, for example, a construction of an object or a system or something. But we are mostly designing a project. Or the result of that plan. And they also say that the design usually has to satisfy certain goals and constraints, may take into account aesthetic, functional, economic, or socio-political consideration, and is expected to interact with a certain environment. And it is that kind of definition that I see also the design, that it needs to satisfy certain goals or constraints. It has to, I would say it has to solve a problem. And a problem doesn't have to be something that, a problem. It can be something that needs to be solved. The word problem can also be interpreted in different ways. But it has to solve something. It has to meet or satisfy certain goals that you want to achieve. Aesthetic is also something that is very into knitting and knitting design. Of course, that is something that is important that you have to take into account. And also, as I see it, the functional part of this design is also something that you have to consider when you are designing. And that it's the interaction with the environment. So this is also how I see on what is a design or designing. or the result of a design. The process, the design process, is also described in different ways. And you can see, if you look at it, you can see that there are like two different main approaches to the design process. Either you have a more rational approach to a design process. And by that means that you have it very sequences, that you have different steps that you need to fulfill before you take the next step and the next step and the next step. And then they have your prototype, and then you test it, and then you evaluate it, and then you implement it, and then you go on. Or you can have a more dynamic approach to the design that is more like, instead of going like all the way in steps, you may jump a little bit back and forth, come up with the idea and then try it and then see it and in that. But somehow, as I see it, no matter of what kind of approach you have to the process, it still needs to fulfill those goals or and consider different considerations that you have, that the design should meet. But somehow you can see that designing as finding solutions to certain problems that you have identified. So that a little bit background on designing. So designing, as I see it, is not only to make something that looks good. Of course, it can be an important consideration. But there are so many other things that a design also is about. My design process. Yeah. I see that it must start with, what do I need? And yeah, what do I need? Not only designing for random, but starting like, what do I need? And from that, or to answer that, it is to see, okay, in what kind of situations do I need to have a garment? The situation can be outdoor activities, horseback riding, working in the garden, being at the office. So that those kind of different situations. And as you understand, horseback riding, a garment for horseback riding and a garment for being in the office, they are two totally different needs connected to that. They're two totally different designs because they are fulfilling different goals and they are interacting with the environment in different ways. So I first think about, okay, what kind of situation do I need this garment? And when you look at that situations, what kind of environment and conditions are present or you need to consider in that situation? So for example, working in a garden, the environment there is outdoors. Since you're wearing the garment, it's probably because it's a little bit cold outside. So the temperature you have to consider, maybe humidity in the air, maybe wind. Or on the other hand, if you have a garment that is meant to be indoors, you have to consider that, okay, indoors, the temperature as well, but it's probably warmer, so you don't want to have a garment that is too warm. Maybe there is a dress code. Maybe can it mean more? The conditions of that situation or the environment that it should be present in. And from this, you identify requirements on that garment. It could be like how warm it should be. Should it be high in the neck or low in the neck? Should it be fitted? Should it be loose? Should it be something that is versatile so you can close and open it? Should it be easy to take on and off? So different requirements that the garment or the design needs to fulfill or meet. So that for me is the first step in the design process. Actually finding out, what do I need? The second step, and that will be covered in part 2, it is how do I meet with these requirements? How do I fulfill this? So how do I make what I need? And in this step, we more get into the construction and the choice of material and all this that is connected to the how. And I think it's important to separate these two parts. Because if you dive directly into the how, if I say that, okay, I want something with a high neck, or something that covers my neck, then you will probably, directly go to, have the neck in a twisted rib or something. But if you go directly on the how, or if there is something that I want to wear that is easy to ventilate, then you see, a cardigan with buttons. Then I can wear it open or wear it closed. But if you focus directly on the how, then you're framing yourself. Then you're not allowing yourself to see different or new solutions to your requirements. You just went directly for the solution. And it's not 100% sure that solution you choose will actually cover your requirements, because you have already decided what you think that you need. And to doing this in this kind of, it's like a more rational way of saying, it requires that you have some kind of discipline on your thoughts, because it's so easy to go directly into the how. But stay up here in the what a little longer and identify it, so you actually are giving yourself a chance for finding new solutions, and the solutions that are actually answering to your needs. Do you get it? So, in this episode, we will talk about the what. So, to explain a little bit further how I am thinking on designing a collection on my own, I will let you join me for a little walk. I want to design a collection for myself that I can use for outdoor activities. The situation I see, it is, of course, shorter walks in the woods. Probably mainly for long day hikes, that you are out walking for the whole day. But also for multiple day trips where you stay overnight somewhere, like in a shelter, a tent, a hammock. So that is a situation that I want my collection to be in. When I'm out walking or hiking, I'm usually wearing bought stuff, like these kind of woolen first layer, sweaters, socks, underwear, down jacket, and so on. But I want to wear more handmade knitted garments. So, and why I haven't worn it so much so far, it is mainly because I don't feel like the things I've knitted fits or fill those requirements I have on my hiking garments. And the things, the sweaters and the garments I buy, they doesn't fill those requirements 100% either. So I'm always in some kind of compromise. And that is what I want to kind of overcome by actually designing the garments from those requirements that I see. So that is why I want to make this outdoor collection. So the situation that I wanted to work in, it is those. Of course, for shorter walks, but most garments fits for those. But long day hikes and multiple day trips. The kind of conditions I want them to work in or be specified for, it is like autumn, winter, spring. Maybe it's not so much summer. Maybe summer in the mountains, in the Norwegian and Swedish mountains up north, where it can be quite cold conditions even in the summer. But maybe mainly during the colder months. And for any kind of weather, and to go with more like commercial bought garments. I'm not planning on knitting rain gears. I don't think that would be so easy. But it will fill my needs connected to the winter season or autumn, winter, spring season. And to be able to fill those needs, I need to specify what requirements does the garment need to meet or fulfill. And to be able to specify those requirements, from my point of view, I have to live in these conditions. I have to seek up the situation, seek up different conditions that I want my garment to work in, and from that kind of experience the requirements that the garment need to meet or fulfill. And the best way to do that is to get out there where I want to wear my garments. So that is what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to let you follow me on a walk today. And we're going to discuss the requirements that I see in different situations that I experience during a walk. I see that it's really important that you don't mix up the what and the how, because the requirements that I want or that I see that a garment need to fulfill, the needs I have, that is the what. And the solutions to fulfill those needs or fulfill that or meet those requirements, that's the how. And today we are only going to talk about the what, the requirements. And why that? You can see that
you will probably, when I talk, you will see that, okay, but you can meet those requirements by doing this and that. But if you do that, if you see the solution right away, then you're framing yourself. Then you will only see that solution. And I mean that to all these needs I have, there are many solutions. And I don't want to frame myself. I want to see those needs and see if I can come up with the optimal solution for those needs, and a solution that works together with other solutions or other requirements to actually make the perfect garment that is suited for my needs. So that is the purpose with this walk, to find the requirements, to experience the needs I have on a garment that will work in this kind of environments when I'm out hiking, long and short. Dressing for walking is always a challenge. You probably heard about the expression that when you start walking, hiking, skiing, that you should be a little bit cold. So you shouldn't put on all your clothes, because when you walk, you are producing heat. And especially when you're out for a long day or when it's cold outside, you should try to prevent or avoid sweating. Of course, sometimes you have to sweat, especially when you're running, and then you should be careful what you have as a first layer. But when the conditions are like that it's difficult for you to dry your sweaty things, then the best thing is to avoid sweating. And that you do by regulating your clothes so you don't get this overheated, and also regulating how hard you are walking or skiing so that you are having a balance. But walking, I usually, as today, because it's quite warm, I'm just using one first layer sweater, and that works fine. I'm actually a little bit warm already, and to prevent that, I can just roll up my arms a little bit. I have an open neck, so I can ventilate out here as well. If I should get a little bit colder now, I can put on something on my neck. I can roll down the sleeves, maybe put on a hat, and I will get a little bit warmer without putting anything else on my body. If it's windy, since I'm inside in the woods right now, if it gets windy, you're going to be cold much faster, and the heat that you produce while walking may not be enough, and then you might have to put on some windproof layer. That could be a vest, or that could be like a jacket for some with arms, a vest with arms, a jacket, a thin jacket that is windproof or almost windproof depending on the temperature. And that will make you warmer, but that could also make you too warm. And if it starts to rain, then you probably want to put on something that is waterproof. If it's just drizzling or it's like kind of foggy, then maybe you don't want to put on something. Maybe then it's just enough with a windproof garment. But if it started to rain for real, then you want to have a rain jacket and trousers on. So when it comes to the perfect garment for walking, I see that you need to have something that is very versatile, that you can adjust depending on the conditions. You can regulate it depending on temperature. You can have it, wear it under some shell, like a vest, a wind jacket, a waterproof jacket. or something. And to be able to be worn under something, I at least want it to be quite fitted, both for the body and also for the sleeves. So it's not too bulky and doesn't fit under a jacket. And I also want to have quite fitted because wearing something that is very bulky while hiking, it will get it's like bulky under the backpack, and it's also heavier. The more fabric you have on the garment, the heavier it will become. So that is one thing. I see that versatility and to be able to fit under other garments. If you're wearing a backpack, I see that then you also need to think about it, because the shoulder, this coat, but the backpack, the shoulder and the back will be, what do you say it? It will wear on the fabric, and it can be this kind of prickly fabric, noppor, as we say in Swedish. Or maybe if you really wear it down, it can become holes on it. So if you're going to wear like a heavy backpack, then you may not want to have the wool directly towards the backpack. And then maybe you prefer to have your knitted garment under a windproof jacket or a vest, just to prevent it from, it's like having chafs, on your feet. The sweater gets chafs. So that's something to think about, because a knitted sweater is not, it will not totally break, but it will probably, it's different between the shoulders and like for the front, how much it will wear out eventually. Or maybe it doesn't matter to you because you're not wearing the backpack that much or that often, or the backpack it's constructed so it doesn't kind of wear on the garment. But that's something to think about. What I see that I need when it comes to handmade knitted garments for walking, I see that I want to have mid-layer garment, a little bit thicker than what I have here, like a second layer that I can have as it is, but maybe preferably under a windproof vest. And then it comes to this kind of how you want to make it like perfect, meet all those requirements I have. Since you have a vest on, you will get warm on your body. And at least when I walk, I'm getting warm around my torso, especially on my back, since I have a backpack there. So that one will not get cold, it will get sweaty. And you don't want to get sweaty. But the arms can be cold. So even if I wear something windproof and warm on my torso, the arms can be cold. But if I wear something windproof, a full jacket, I usually get a little bit overheated. So I want something that I can combine with a vest, either just a windproof vest or a thicker vest, but that prevents my arms from getting cold. So that is kind of requirements that I see that I want to have. And of course I want it to fit under both this vest and a windproof jacket and some other shell or the outer layer garments. But I also want to have some kind of garment that I can use as the outer garment when it's not windy, not that windy, and it's not rainy, but maybe quite cold outside. And so it's kind of something thicker that I can wear, and I can have maybe 1 or 2 layers underneath it. And for that kind of garment, if I say for a first layer or a mid layer, I think I prefer to have it quite open in the neck, so you can regulate it and ventilate out heat. But for this kind of outer layer, I want it to be closer and higher up in the neck. And maybe it doesn't have to be that warm on the back, but the shoulders and the arms should be like, so they can keep warm. Is someone coming? So in the front, for the chest, the arms, the shoulders, those are the parts of my body that I want to be warm, especially also if you're walking in wind. Those are the areas of the body that will be exposed. The back will not be exposed if I wear a backpack. And if I'm walking, I'm probably producing heat, and then I will not be that exposed or cold on the back either. So I see for me 2 kind of walking garments that has to do with a mid layer that can be worn under a windproof vest or something, and then a thicker, like an outer layer, a thick layer that can be worn on top of, well, it's a shell, not on its own, because then I don't have anything under it, but on its own as the outer layer. Do you understand? And that one should be for cold conditions. So warm, especially for the arms, the shoulders, and the front for the chest and my tummy. And also while I'm walking, as I mentioned in the beginning, I see that having these kind of accessories that you can use to constantly adapt, or for the different conditions, like a hat, beanie that you can put on and off, something for the neck, something for the hands, maybe these kind of half mittens things. So something that is warming parts of your body that is exposed, where you have your the blood vessels are quite shallow. It means that if you warm up that or prevent that areas from getting cold, then you warm up the whole body. So having these kind of accessories is also good to have. And then at least I think that they should be quite thin, because then it's easy to put on and off, and it doesn't heat up too much. But you can adapt to the conditions. But also if it's thin and quite light, it's also easy to put on the pocket. To have something big and bulky, it's not that easy to put in your pocket. Then you'd maybe have to put it in your backpack, and then it's not that easy to pick up. You have to take the backpack off and just start digging into it to take up the whatever you want to have. So something that you can have easily accessible and just put on and take off to adapt to the perfect body temperature. So you're not cold, but you're not sweating. So those are my requirements for walking. Well, you cannot just walk. You have to take a break sometimes as well. And when you stop walking and sitting down, you're not producing that much heat any longer. So usually when at least I get to, when I'm taking a break, I feel quite like warm. But I know that if I don't put on something warm and that isolates me, I will get cold quite just in a couple of minutes, especially if I have started sweating. So to have something to put on, like a warm layer that you have easy accessible in your backpack, the best thing is to have it the first thing that you grab when you open up the main compartment in your backpack. So something warm together with something for your head, for your neck, for your hands, just to isolate this heat that you have worked up. So that is what I need to have when it comes to have some garment just to be able to put on during breaks. And the requirements I have for that, it is that it should be warm, it should be light, because I want to be able to have it in the backpack, so it doesn't take up too much space or being too heavy. I also wanted it to be easy to put on. So, yeah, just something to pull on when you take a break. So if the garment, if it's difficult in some way, you will probably avoid putting it on. And then you will probably be cold during your breaks, and then the breaks will not have that effect on you. Like you can rest in and recover. Or then you may take very short breaks, or you get very cold. So easy to put on. Something that you really, when you're walking, you're looking forward putting that on during your break. And I want it to be covering my neck, because it's to have something that you put on during the break. I see that it's a good thing that you have like all in one piece. So covering at least your neck, be long, so it covers your wrists, and maybe also enough long to cover your hands. Maybe even be able to cover your head, so you don't have to have a separate hat. It doesn't have to be windproof, because then it will be quite bulky and not that easy to compress, and it will be heavier. But it should be fitted enough to be able to be worn under like a Gore-Tex jacket or something. Because if it's windy, you want to have a layer outside this kind of warm layer. So that's a balance between having it fitted enough to fit under a jacket, but still easy to put on. So that's kind of a balance that you need to meet. And easy to put on, and easy to take off, and easy to pack back into your backpack. Pack back into your backpack. And if it's really cold outside, it could be that this garment, or the same garment, but also when you take a break, you can be cold not only on your upper body, but also on your legs. So for real cold days, it could be that you need to have some garment, maybe not the same as the warm garment you have on your upper body, but some garment to actually warm your behinds and your thighs and maybe your knees, depending on what requirements you have in your lower body. So that's also something to think about. What requirements for that part of the body. Yeah, something easy to put on that you want to put on that keeps you warm during your breaks. If I'm going to spend the night outside, for example, in this kind of shelter or a tent or a hammock, I will probably need almost the same thing as when I take a break, but even more garment to keep me warm. And I will need to change into dry garment, so I'm not wearing anything that has become wet during the day. I also need, during the night, especially if it goes quite cold during the night, things to wear in my sleeping bag. And I know that a pair of warm, nice socks are essential, not to be cold. The same as a nice hat, beanie, to have on your head to keep that warm. And also something that covers your wrists, I also find very nice to stay warm. And then maybe something to cover your whole body, of course. So that is usually what I wear during hiking during the night or spending my night outdoors. So probably I would guess that the things I have during for walking, especially for having breaks or resting, that will be sufficient also for the thing to keep myself warm during the evening and during the night. One thing to think about if you are camping and having a campfire, it is that the garment you have should not be it should not catch fire easily. For this kind of jacket, it's not optimal, because if I have some kind of, this kind of glowing thing from the fire, it will maybe not burn up, but it will blow or glow a hole in the fabric. So I need something that I can wear close to the fire without being damaged in any way. So that's something to think about if you are going camping and making campfires. So a little bit of safety there as well. And especially when it comes to if you have mittens on, something that you actually are putting your hands into the fire for some reason. So they should be safe. So now I have been starting to try to figure out the needs I have for not outdoor living, but doing hiking, for day trips and for multiple day trips, and spending my night outside camping. And what I've come up with so far, it is that I want to have a mid layer for walking, a heavier layer, a warmer layer that wear as the outer layer also for walking, that I want to have some really warm, versatile garment for having a break or taking a pause, that both covers my upper body, but also something that can warm and cover my lower body. I also see that I need accessories for warming the head, the neck, the hands. That should also be maybe not the same for walking and resting, because they need to cover different requirements. I have identified that the garments need to be versatile. They need to be quite fitted, so I can wear it, especially those that I'm intended to wear as a first or mid layer, that they can be worn under a jacket, but also other layers. For example, for the one that keep me warm, I need to be able to wear it under a rain or waterproof jacket, so it doesn't get that bulky. And I want especially the accessories that I'm going to wear while walking, that to be quite light and to be able to put in, for example, in your pocket, so you can put it on and take it off depending on how warm you get. I also see that, especially if I'm going camping, I want the garments to be in a material that can be close to fire without catching fire or being damaged in any way. So that is an overview of the requirements that I have experienced today by putting myself in the environment and exposing myself to the conditions that is for today. And today is actually a warm day. It's between 10 and 15 degrees, sunny, hardly any wind. And that means that to be able to actually understand and experience the different requirements that I have for these garments, I need to put myself out there when it's colder, when it's windier, when it's raining, to really understand and be able to develop the different requirements that I have on these different garments. So what I'm going to do now, it is to, maybe I don't have to write it down because I have recorded it, but I'm probably going to have some kind of structure for it, that what is it that I need for this outdoor collection, and what is requirement for these different kind of garments. I don't want now, or I shouldn't decide now on, is it a sweater, is it a cardigan, is it something else? Because that is to go into the solutions. I must stay still on the different requirements that I have, so that I don't frame myself, and so that I am open to different kind of solutions to these requirements or these problems, or whatever you can call it. So I hope that you enjoyed my little walk. I guess there will be more walks before I can really start designing my outdoor collection. One last thing. Maybe you have wondered why I haven't been wearing any of my hand knitted garments today. And it has been a purpose with that. And that is because I didn't want to frame you, and I didn't want to frame myself in having a knitted garment and then look at the solutions and referring to that knitted garment. I want to be free in my mind to see what are my requirements. I want to be free and not be stuck in the how, and only look at the what. What do I need? So that's why I haven't been wearing any garments that I've been knitted myself. I have been wearing wool, but that garments I have bought. So now I will return home and think about what I have experienced today.
I will continue exploring in what do I need when it comes to this collection that I am planning. And continue going out, exploring and uppleva. Be in that environment and the conditions and the situation, just to understand, what do I actually need? What are the requirements of the design, the different garments that I want to make to answer to my needs? So now I am challenging you in actually finding this, taking a situation that you want to design for. You don't have to do it, but you start teasing your brain. What kind of situation do you want to design for? What are the environment or the conditions in that situation? And what are the requirements on the garment? So you can actually design the garment that answers to your needs. So start thinking about it. Be in that environment and see, what do I want? What are the requirements here for me to have that perfect garment or garments to cover your needs? Do you accept the challenge? You have seen a sweater hanging here in the background. Now I'm wearing it. This is my latest finished project. That is, I've speed knitted it. And this is actually a fusion of the Versal sweater, with the continuous method on the shoulders. I have shown it before. You probably see my orange or fiery sweater with a high neck that is also knitted with this construction. The designer is Albina, but I made it, of course, improvised on my own, and made the shoulder part a little bit wider. I think it's kind of 14 stitches instead of, I think the Versal has 10 stitches, something like that. I made it with garter in the sleeves and here, down here, and with this kind of rolled edge. You just do stockinette and then it will roll up with a contrasting color. And what I did also, maybe you see it, I made a lace panel under the arms. And this lace panel, it is from another one of Albina's patterns that is called Scale Gra, something like that. And that is actually a yoke that is in lace. So a lace pattern in a yoke. But I took that lace pattern and made it as a panel instead. Because I thought that could be nice. this design is not really, I didn't really make the design process in it. I just wanted to knit a sweater that I like. So I went directly on the how. And if I have thought a little bit what I actually want to have, I would probably, I think, design it in a little different way. Now it was like, okay, I went on the solutions that I usually choose. I made an I-cord on the neck and then picked up stitches and started knitting, because that is what I usually do. I made this garter on the sleeves and the bottom line. I made these short rows to lower the back a little bit. I made my solutions for raising the neck and so on. This kind of solution I've never done before. So this is a typical sweater without any systematic or structured design process behind. It was just knitting. And there's nothing wrong with that. But this sweater does not really answer to a specific need. It's low in the neck. It means that having it outside, I have to have something else that covers my neck. I would probably pick up stitches and make it a little bit high in it, because it's a thick, there's 2 strands of nutiden in it, so it's a little bit thick. It's okay to wear indoors, just because it doesn't have a high neck, so it's a little bit ventilation. But I think I want to have this one more as a spring sweater, wear in the spring. But I think a little bit higher neck would be suitable. So, yeah, not much thought behind this, just a will or inspiration to knit something in this beautiful yarn. So an example of not following any specific design process is this one. So what should we call this one? Maybe I had 2 wind sweaters. I have the northern wind, Nordan, and the eastern wind, the yellow one, Östan. So maybe this one should be the wind from the south, Sunnan. Sunset. Yeah. It feels like something that you can wear when the wind from the south that is a little bit warmer actually is coming in the spring. So I introduce to you Sunnan. And now to my best tip. And some of you have commented that you really think that I should have this more as a small tip in the end of the program. So today it will come. It has been in the end of September. It was an official shop update for Nutiden yarn. And I think that at least some of my viewers probably bought some yarn there and have hopefully already got them. Some of you may be new to Nutiden, some of you may be very used to knitting with Nutiden. So I want to give you my best tip when it comes to how to not hold your yarn in the fingers, and not store the yarn, but how to have your yarn when you're actually knitting. And I know that there are many that make the yarn into small yarn balls, nystan, and wind it up. And when you're doing that, you are a little bit twisting the yarn as it goes when you're winding it up, and that means that it will like twist a little bit, spin a little bit, so it actually holds a little bit better since it's an unspun yarn. But I'm not doing that. I am doing it in another way. And that's why I have this paper here. I don't know what you call it. We call it hushållspapper, household paper. You used to wipe things. But it's not the paper I'm interested in here. It is this kind of holder. Because this paper, we can use that for something else. This holder is my best tip. And at least when I'm knitting at home, I don't bring this when I go outside. But at home, I put my yarn, my nutiden yarn, this kind of, I don't know what you should call it, the cake. I put it over here in that way. And I use the yarn. I usually use 2 strands because that's what I prefer knitting. And I take from 1 strand from inside and 1 from the outside. So when I put the yarn like this, isn't that good? Then I can like pull the yarn up here perfectly. And I usually have this yarn standing at the floor next to the chair that I'm sitting in. So I'm taking it from the floor, so it means that I'm pulling it up. And that's very convenient having it like that. If I should have it on the table beside me and have to work up here all the time, of course, that will be difficult. So this is how I hold it. And to be able to do this, you have to, this is actually a prototype of the huldra I'm knitting on. I will not show you any more of that, but that is one of the prototypes I'm knitting. But to be able to have this solution, that you are having the 1 strand from the inside, you have to find that strand. And I know that that can be difficult. It can be difficult on any skein, nystan, that you are taking the strand from the inside. Many times it will be like the skein is giving birth and everything is coming out. I heard an expression for that. Maybe some of you knew that. Yeah, it was quite funny. So it requires some technique, and it requires a gentle hand and patience and trust in the yarn to actually be able to get this center strand. I have here a skein or a cake of nutiden yarn. It's the colorway Viltspår, but that doesn't matter. And I haven't prepared this. So now, almost live, I will try to get the center. So what I start to do, you see that you have this kind of, swirl. So I will try just to separate here. And I usually just massage it a little bit so it will open up. And then I will try to separate it so I get as close as possible to the center. So open it up like that and massaging it so it opens up. Frilägga. And then I just put my fingers in and just hope for the best. Sometimes I'm lucky and get the perfect, but usually not. But it's important that you have, loosen it up a little bit. Otherwise, there is a risk that either you will have everything taken out, or that you will the strand will just break. So see if you can find. Oh, now it just went out on the other side, but we take here and just pull something gently out, not too hard, and you just have to realize that you will get more than you want, but suddenly you only have one strand. So then you will just wind up this a little bit, so you come to the end. Like that. So that was some extra yarn. So there I have the end. Just keep this in the center, and then I find that's usually a little bit easier to have. Obviously not. There, I have it. The one on the outside. And now I have the inside. I have the outside strand. As I said, I haven't rehearsed this. Just made a knot. So, inside and outside, and then I can just go on. So the outside strand will rotate around, and the inside strand will come from the inside. So, and now in the beginning, you will not be able to put this skein on the holder because it's too tight in here. So you have to wait until this hole is actually a little bit bigger. But what is important now, it is that you actually are massaging it a little bit so that the tension in here is released, so that you can actually pull gently out here without it getting stuck. So this is my best tip on how to use your nutiden yarn and how you can arrange it when you're knitting. And I have another bonus tip also. This is what you see here. It has nothing to do with knitting, but still something a little bit crafty, and it's a jigsaw puzzle. A couple of weeks ago, I just one evening felt this urge. I want to do a jigsaw puzzle. And I found a picture that I really liked. Just look at that one. You just want to walk out there. And I think that having this jigsaw puzzle is something that is really calming. It's a little bit like knitting. You are relaxing, you are focusing. It's a great way to spend time with friends and family, and just gather around this jigsaw, drinking tea or wine. Maybe you should be careful when you drink too much wine. Just as when you're knitting, you may need to knit backwards, or if you can jigsaw puzzle backwards. But I think it's a great way, especially now when the nights are getting darker and you spend more time indoors. So that is my second best tip. Get a jigsaw puzzle and gather family and friends and spend some nice time now when it's getting dark outside. I think that was that I had today. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. Please let me know. Please share your thoughts, your experience with me and with each other. So until next time, take care, be strong, be kind, and be brave. Be courageous. See you later.